Good day to everyone. My name is Tan Jia Hui. Today we are going to make our own salt crystal or sodium chloride crystal using recrystallization process. The main objective of this experiment, we have two. The first is to remove impurities and to find a perfect square face-centered cubic structure salt crystal after recrystallization process. The material and apparatus we need in this experiment is simple. What we need is warm water, spoon, a container, a few containers also not a problem, and any brand of salt. Let's go! First, we need to prepare warm water and salt. Add salt into the water. Keep stirring and adding salt as much as possible to make it concentrated. We can only stop adding the salt until it can't dissolve anymore. I have prepared a few containers here and plan to place it at different places. Pour the salt solution into different containers carefully. Remember that we only pour the concentrated salt solution that is dissolved into container without pouring the undissolved salt which will left at the bottom of the pot. In order to speed up the evaporation process, I'm using a pen and porous string to help evaporation. After a few days, the salt crystal is formed. Let's explain the physics behind this experiment. When we add salt into water, the salt will dissolve and the ionic bond dissociate to form sodium ion and chloride ion. When water evaporates after a few days, both the ions will recombine to form crystals. We need saturated solution for the crystal formation in this experiment. So to ensure it is saturated enough, warm water is suggested. And boiling water can be used also to dissolve as much as solute, which is salt, as possible in solvent, which is water. When saturation point reached, it will not dissolve any more salt and will remain in the bottom of the pot. Crystal starts to form when saturated solution becomes supersaturated. So what is the meaning of supersaturated? Supersaturated means it is beyond its saturation point. When saturated solution dries up after a few days, water evaporates and it becomes supersaturated. Supersaturated state is an unstable state that the molecule will recrystallize and reduce the amount of dissolved solute, which is salt, inside the concentrated solution. In the end, the salt crystal forms. When water evaporates, the molecule of water that is left at the container no longer sufficient to separate the sodium ion and chloride ion. As time passes, bond and more salt molecule will bond back and form a cube shape of salt crystal. A perfectly FCC cubic crystal which will appear will have the sharp edges and a center of hole seen clearly at the middle. If the crystal is big enough and perfect, we will be able to see a cross inside the square. Precaution in this experiment, in order to obtain a more perfectly crystal, we need to take more care about the recrystallization processes which help us to remove the impurities. The salt we choose and buy in this experiment should be with the least impurities such as not ionized. Unfortunately, the salt we can find in the market is normally ionized as a small amount of ion is needed as the mineral for human. If you can only use distilled water and non-ionized salt in this experiment, you will definitely get a more perfect crystal salt. The second precaution that we need to take care about is the saturated solution, as we wanted to reach the supersaturated state. So, during the experiment, we are going to prepare the concentrated salt solution using either warm or hot water. We also have to care about the temperature difference at the place we put our saturated solution. Make sure to put solution at place with less temperature differences to avoid inverted pyramid form crystal. The reason we have a cross sign inside the salt crystal is because the edges grow faster than faces. Crystal edges more contact with the saturated solution. Crystal grow with a square pyramidal indentation on each face. If the crystal grown really slow under control condition, the sign will not appear and we are able to obtain a more perfect cube. This experiment is considered successful as we are able to get the FCC salt crystal in the end. Thank you for listening.